Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is part 3 of our rewire on our 1970 C10. So when I last left off with y'all, we were doing, I believe it was the engine bay routing. So since then, we have gotten a lot more accomplished. This video, I'm going to kind of take you through what we did because while I want to show you as much as possible, at the same time, I know wiring and stuff can get boring. And I feel like I did a lot of the more boring parts that I feel like I can just talk you through and kind of show you what I did as we go. So first thing we're going to do is go over the engine bay, even though we did kind of cover that in the last video. We're going to go over it, as well as I'll finally share what I've been keeping secret until this video. And then we'll move to inside the truck and also move to the tail section as well. So stay tuned. Please remember to like and subscribe, and let me get to showing you around. All right, guys. So again, even though we covered this before in the previous video, I want to show y'all. So this was our engine side main harness connection. So we got the fuse block mounted on the inside of the cab, and then we connected our engine side, and then I started routing. I did not complete the route fully. I started routing to the different sides of the engine. So you have this side that goes around over the top in that trough and then comes out. That'd be that harness right there. And then you have these two harnesses that are down here. So you have this bigger one, which is the headlight harness, and then you have this little one, which is the alternator harness. And then off of this as well, we have our tail section. So one thing you might notice if you know anything about these trucks, which I learned in this process, is the tail section factory does not come from here. It actually connects over here, and there's a plug right down there. Yep, there we go. So right at the tip of my finger, there's a plug there. I actually diked that off because I didn't want a hole in the firewall, so I just diked the wires off at that. Left the connection in there so the hole was sealed. I know I mentioned before not making any cuts, but that one is okay to do because, well, unless you want to get a fill plug, you could, or just use the factory connector and it'll seal it up just fine. So anyways, so moving back to the engine bay, we have this harness right here, which is our headlight harness. So this long one, of course, goes to the passenger side. This short one here goes to the driver's side. Now, this harness will get routed properly. It'll get routed. The factory went through here. I will probably do that, obviously, after adding some protection for chafing, but I will probably route it through there. But I'm going to take some looking and see if I find any better way I want to route it where, I don't know, where I think it looks better or won't be seen at all. But as you notice, there's no connections on here. I thought about doing the connections and getting them ready, but Painless actually says for your headlight harness that if you're still running your halogen headlights, that you need their special harness. Well, I don't want to do that because that harness is like 180 bucks. So I decided to do a little browsing and see what other people have done to convert to LED. So I actually found on one of the forums for these trucks, somebody found some headlight housings that worked with 907 bulbs and their LED. So that's what I ordered. It ended up being for all 4 lights and the bulbs. It ended up being roughly, I think, $250. So obviously it was more, but I have upgraded headlights that'll work better than the factory halogens, and I don't have to add another harness. So the other harness was a relay harness to keep voltage down, but I could have added relays in the circuit myself. I didn't want to. Felt like I could upgrade, and it was justification to do so. So it was good enough for me. So anyways, guys, like I said, I think I said it before, this is the no, that's not the alternator harness. My bad, I lied. This is the alternator harness. So I mentioned in the previous video that this guy was kind of short.
especially this wire right here. I don't know why they're two different lengths, but this one was kind of short, and this one still is short, but not as bad. So that is not going to be a huge deal, and I'm actually just going to leave this guy hanging out over here until later, because so this currently has a small block 350 in it and a turbo 350 transmission. Well, what's going to end up being in here is a 6.2 or a 6.0 LS2 engine that has forged internals and other goodies. So we are going to be upgrading to that. So that's why the alternator connection and the engine connects and all stuff like that, I'm not really concerned with, because once this engine comes out, I will then, and the other engine gets in, then I'll worry about connecting harnesses. Sorry, I had Mike starting to get in the camera. Anyways, but yeah, so once the LS is in here, then I'll start worrying about making these connections and making them the proper length. If I have to reroute anything, if this needs to be moved, I don't believe it will, because I'm pretty sure I can choose which side on that LS that the alternator is going to go on, but that is something we will deal with in the future. But yeah, so any engine connections I'm not going to make. They're just going to hang out and look pretty until we're ready to make the connection on the LS. So anyways, guys, let's move into the cab of the truck and show you that. So we're in the cab of the truck. If you hear a fan, well, I like to stay cool, so I have a portable AC unit in the cab of the truck to keep me nice and cool while I'm working here. So let me try to get you the best view I can. So I'm trying to use my flashlight here. Hold up. All right. So back there, you can see vaguely that there's the relay mounted to the wall. So the big thing I really want to show y'all here is the harness that I removed. Sorry for the camera work. The harness that I removed actually was up here and was routed across the top of the dash across there. So I wanted to do that as well. The only issue I ran into was with the ignition. So if I ran it across the top, the ignition connection would not work. I could have spliced in wire, made it longer, and made it where I could put it up where I wanted to, but I decided not to. So what I decided to do was I ran my connections right across the top of here. So these are still out of the way. They're not in any danger of hitting anything moving, so it will be fine. I did add a lot of braiding, a lot of that cloth electrical tape, which is fantastic, by the way, for this application. So I wrapped everything up as cleanly as I could, made it basically, when you look in under here, I don't want it to look all trashy and you see a bunch of, even though it's nice wiring, I don't want to see a whole bunch of different colors. I would just kind of want everything to blend in and look natural. So that is, and everything you see back here is for the suspension airbags. So that's not part of the harness. There's some other stuff that's in here that's not part of this harness, but this is the main route. So if you do this and perhaps your harness doesn't reach over to your ignition like mine, because before it was routed, you have your headlight switch over here on the far left. I had the harness connected, routed over the top of that because there is clips back here. But if yours doesn't reach as well, you're more than fine to do this. Like I said, if you stay away from moving parts and pinch points, sharp edges, you will be fine. And like I said, I think it looks good. It's not what I wanted, but it looks good enough that I'm okay with it. And it's not gonna make me lose sleep at night. But anyways, so moving over, you have the other connections that are made back in here, wiring over here. So I have the heater only version, so that's what this harness is. I just need to finish throwing them over. There's some connections over there. These wires are my courtesy lights. So I didn't even know this thing had courtesy lights other than the dome light, but it comes with housings to put lights to light up your floorboard over here and over here. So we'll get that put in eventually, as long as I can figure out what bulbs it uses. I wasn't having much luck finding that yesterday online, but we'll get that situated. So yeah, this is the cab. I still need to make connections with, or insert my contacts for my gauge cluster, because they're right here. I need to insert those properly where they belong. But other than that, pretty much the interior of the truck is routed. So they're just going to be making connections from here. And I would say, if you read the instructions with Painless, they will provide you enough to be able to finish from here. I just wanted to show you, really, in the cab, the only thing of concern was how to route this, and really just going across the top of your steering column over this is a good way to do it. Again, if you can't put it up here. So anyways, guys, let's move to the underside of the truck for the last section, which is the tail section. So this isn't very easy to record, but let me kind of, if you see that wire or that braiding right there in the middle of the screen, that is our harness. So it is sitting on that little lip right there, but not hard, and it's also in that snake skin, so it'll be fine. The factory harness, just so you're aware, also runs over that. So I think it'll be fine. I'm not worried about it too much. It's not a super abrasive edge. I'll kind of mess with it after this video, double check. Actually, hold on. I will check it now, make sure. So yes, this is a rounded edge. So that is what you're looking for whenever you're looking for chafe points. You want to make sure it's a rounded edge. So if it's rounded, I'm not really worried about it rubbing through. There's not a lot of pressure on it, so you'll be good. Now, so again, I use some of the factory clips. If I can get my camera out of the way a little bit. There we go. So you see in there, there's a factory clip that's holding the harness up. I tried to do that as much as possible wherever I could. Let me... Here, there's a zip tie up there that I used that was actually already there. It's holding airbag harnesses up, so I was able to route it through there. Sorry guys, it's hard to move around under here with airbags. But, so, harness is there still as well. Let me see. So, there's your harness. There's a better view of it, just running across there. Again, using the clips as necessary. Once you get to behind the rear axle, you will find there's a disconnect on the frame. You'll just unplug that, and then your old harness is out of the way. And you just kind of, the best way I can say to do it for the tail section is just follow your old harness and route it the exact same way. It will make life easier because, again, you already have the factory clips that hopefully are still there, and you know if the harness has lasted this long, it will probably last a long time as well. Just still, I would use that braiding that's right there. I would use something like that. Braiding, convoluted tubing, something to provide just a little bit of protection. So anyways, guys, that was the wire routing for our 1970 C10. While everything's not 100% complete, that was the bulk of it, and I feel like anything else will be unnecessary to include in the video, such as making the connections. Painless is pretty thorough on their explanation of how to make the contacts and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like if you're doing this, and especially if you're using a painless harness, you will be fine in that aspect. Again, what I really wanted to emphasize for this video was wire routing and chafe protection, all that kind of good stuff. So remember, if you are routing wires, avoid moving anything that moves, any sort of pinch point, any abrasive edge. If it's rounded, more than likely it's fine. If you can rub your finger over it and your finger doesn't snag on it, you're probably okay. But to even go a little bit further, even if it is, I would use some sort of protection. I chose to use braiding because, for the most part, I do have some convoluted tubing that I will be using as well, especially whenever we actually wire up the tail lights behind the bumper. I will use convoluted tubing for that. But for the most part, the wire braiding will work. and be good for this application. Pepper's deciding to make her appearance. Uh, so, with that being said, again, guys, the connections, we will make those once we do the LS swap. Now, with that LS swap, we were originally thinking we were going to have a shop do it, but we have decided since then that we are actually going to do the swap ourselves. So that will be more content coming to the channel, not today or tomorrow, but eventually. I think it'll be a good thing because we honestly have never done anything like it. My wife and I are both aircraft backgrounds, so we do have a good amount of technical knowledge, but not so much whenever it applies to vehicles. We have never done anything like that, so I think it'll be great. It'll be a great learning experience. And so again, those also won't be how-to videos, but they will be more of entertainment, really. So anyways, guys, please remember to like and subscribe. I thank you for watching. If you have any comments on this process or any questions, concerns, whatever it may be, please feel free to put it in the comments down below. Until next time, guys, take it easy, stay safe, stay out of trouble, do something nice for someone, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.